the last lock in there for Boss there in the top lane. But Gauntlet certainly thrown in some ways. DetonatioN focused and he said, yep, we knew this was coming, and Vega Squadron say, we're undefeated, we plan to stay that way.
And the last time we saw this composition from DFM, it basically was a PvE. I mean, Mega really just kind of watched them win the game. It was a spectator sport. This time around, I do want to hone in on the Zoe pick because I think it is actually quite interesting. So I was talking about the trinity of, you got your hard engage, you have your poke, and your sustain. And usually it kind of works where hard engage beats sustain because you don't want them to sustain up. You need to just burst them down. Poke will lose to sustain because it's just not going to make it count. So I think it's really important that Nomanz is able to have massive burst damage and have kill potential, which Zoe can have if she gets ahead. Otherwise, she kind of turns into a CC bot from the back foot there. And I'm curious if it's going to be enough to actually put this heal composition down from DFM.
Certainly have to see, but it does feel like at some point it is very tough to break through these 5 champions when they're grouped up. But as you kind of mentioned, went away a little bit from the 1-3 on Hecarim in the jungle. I mean, Irelia can certainly get stuff done in the side lanes, so we'll see, but a fun one. And as always with the Sona Taric lane, we'll be looking at the bot lane. And thankfully this time around, there's a blitzcrank down there.
Yeah, I am very curious how they're going to transition the blitzcrank to the rest of the map. This is the one that matters. If Vega Squadron win here, it's all over. They can just walk through if everyone beats everyone, and they get to be first place, face the LMS. If DetonatioN Focus Me win here, we have the possibility of a tiebreaker.
Well, of course, a must-win for either side means a fun game is ahead as Santa's moving there with his jungler. With blitzcrank, you always have to think, is some level 1 play happening? The answer right now is maybe.
But look at the 5-man, not a 5-man stack, but I believe a stack here in that bottom try.
There's a ward down there as well, I believe, placed by DetonatioN Focus Me. So we'll have entrance into vision, into that particular entrance. This is a spot of old here for blitzcrank, hoping somebody silly goes over the wall, but DFM are at least sticking together. If they're going to invade, they'll at least have to fight all of us. No one's in that brush.
Yeah, Santa's there, just like you're saying, it's the classic blitzcrank. If someone is not paying attention and standing in that brush, maybe I force a flash over this dragon pit.
Because it's the classic, though, most people know not to stand in that brush when you're up against a blitzcrank, so...
I feel like there's a classic formation that when you are against a blitzcrank, it's that everyone just, like, clumps together in darkness, and you just wait. You're like, okay, someone's dying here. Either they walk into us, or...
Instead, it's just one hook. Not too much commitment there for the blitz. And everyone's going to walk away and start their jungle camp. Spot lane here for DFM will help out Steel. He's back on the Kidred.
And Steel has played Kidred a couple of times in the finals. I don't think it's the best champion for him. Again, if we talk about June and Shinny have been struggling with their lane phase and how they're jungling around their lanes, I think Steel has also had kind of the same problems, but maybe this time around it feels a lot better. He's certainly a good team fight jungler.
Well, definitely curious to see how this plays out. Varus, as you mentioned, a lot of ways for him to get lane priority pretty early. Has the grievous wounds there on VE to help reduce some of the healing, and Sona Taric, not the most violent 2v2 laner.
I do want to talk about Coin Blitzcrank. Huge fan of Coin on Blitzcrank because I think he's a very mana-hungry champion, especially how it works with his kit, as well as allowing him to get multiple punches off. So I love Coin on Blitzcrank. Feels like you can just sit there forever, especially against Sona Taric, and just constantly have the mana pool to throw out as many hooks as possible.
Yeah, if you saw at level 1 when he threw the hook, it's about 45% of his mana at level 1, so certainly is good to get the refresh there. Also, good job, Steel does get that first mark there as he passed towards the top crab, so happy days there for Kidred early on.
Kind of curious that it is something like a Hecarim in the jungle, which hasn't been known for its really heavy ganks. Again, I mentioned the Gragas in Champion Select. I feel like I would have loved to see something like a Gragas, but it can mean that late game maybe it is an AHaHaCiK and boss, like you're talking about, going out into those side lanes and playing that that map pressure.
Maybe just a lot of reliability on old blitzcrank here. Just pull him out of the ulti.
I just think it's a little bit scary for a jungler that doesn't have as easy gank access as something like a Jarvan or a Rek'Sai, especially when you're against such a scaling composition, because you really do want to make an impact early on against them.
Judging by the mana pool, it looks like Santa's landed a hook onto Gaeng. But again, just going to proc those stacks, be healed up, and poke feels nice sometimes, but you got to do all the damage versus this lane. And AHaHaCiK will take down this Scuttlecrab here on the bot side. See if there's any more pressure applied, or if it's maybe just going to be a bit more farming between the Kidred and the Hecarim.
Feels like Varus does need to have the wave pushed up a little bit more, so there's less minions standing in front of Santas.
Yeah, as you said, kind of the thing to do here in the lane is clear space. That requires minions not being in the way of your hook.
But at the same time, you want to lure them closer so you can get on the back of the minion wave, have them have longer to run to, back to safety if you get the hook.
This is the great struggle internally of blitzcrank players. What do I do with the wave?
You just want to hook him. You think a blitzcrank player's thinking about
true.
the wave. He's like, no.
It's only programmed to hook. That one unfortunately misses. Tries to throw it between two minions. Doesn't get a land in onto Gadget. A good amount of damage getting done. Ignite down onto Gaeng though, but that's... Oh no, sorry. That's Grievous Wounds from Varus E. That one will get you sometimes. And of course, barrier heal here for the Sona and Taric, so no Ignite there to try and all-in Gadget, but still a great trade.
Yeah, forward trade. They didn't peek out where Steel was, but AHaHaCiK does mean that they have a 2v1 potential top lane.
Ghosting up here, Kayle, always good to get early if you can. Early flash there from Evi, nice and respectful. Conqueror gonna proc there for Hecarim, but Evi out of there towards the turret.
And I feel like it's about trying to get control over the wave and really punish Kayle, who has a very difficult lane phase early on, now doesn't have access to the flash, will need some sort of assistance to help get this minion wave closer to her.
Back down in the bot lane though, you can see that after that little trade, Yutapon and Gaeng feeling nice. That's actually getting the wave pushed into the turret now, up against Vega. And Nomanz also been doing a fine job here, getting the wave pushed in and trying to have priority, but junglers really haven't been doing much invading. That bubble tags in, instant TP there from DFM. Just to cover for Steel. It is Evi, so at least he's close to the top lane, but that could have gone south very swiftly.
I mean, he's ready. He's there for his team. He needs his jungler to come up. He's like, man, I scratched your back. I TP'd for you. The bubble was scary. Can you just cover a little bit for me?
Yeah, you can see Boss actually doing really well here as far as the CS goes. Up almost 20 as ultimates are nearing for both these champions. Boss should hit it first just based on the control of the wave he's gotten.
Hecarim's just going to run through.
Looking for the stun, lands it. There's the Q follow-up. Conqueror going to activate. Boss doing the majority of the work on his own. Nice little Q there as well to get a little bit more. Needs two more orders and couldn't find them. So Evi going to trade back and tower shot was taken.
And you can see the confidence that gives AHaHaCiK. He was actually running towards the lane, and I think he got distracted with the ward in the brush. Cleared that one out first.
Big wave here for Evi, who wants to take it. Steel is here in his back pocket, which Vega Squadron do know about. Steel actually going to harass onto the jungler. But level 6 there for Boss, also able to TP back, so don't think you can stick around too long here in this play.
Yeah, the fight for the honey fruit, fight for the scuttle crab.
Actually, a TP in there, Boss towards the Scuttle Crab / the Honey, so that will go over to Vega. Tiamat now picked up for Irelia. As Gadget missing blitzcrank, who is roaming in towards the mid lane there, but Santa's going to return. And everything will be a-okay. Looks like those first few buys in bot lane have come through, but nothing too notable just yet.
Yeah, and you have to say that with a slower early game, that this looks good for Detonation focus main. We've seen this time and time again, that if you don't pressure them early on, especially against this composition, they can just roll over you. So it does feel a little bit that Vega are on a bit of a ticking clock here. So I'm curious to see when they're going to choose to break it. They'll have access to the Onslaught of Shadows fairly soon. AHaHaCiK level 5, looking for that level 6. And I think it's then about finding priority for Nomanz in the mid lane, and then maybe blitzing into the jungle, trying to control these jungle openings, and looking for plays on this map.
Infernal up as the first Drake as well for this game, so certainly a good opportunity there. The teams want to make some sort of aggressive play. Good Black Shield there from Ceros, actually nicely timed as the bubble came through. But again, this slower pace of game certainly has to feel fine here for the Japanese side. Vega, I feel like they had the idea of what pressure they wanted to apply. They had the blitzcrank ready, but so far, no fruit has been born.
I'm just curious to see how they'll play out the team fights if the lane phase doesn't go how Vega wants to, and how crucial the blitzcrank silence is going to be, because I feel like that's also kind of the X factor here when you do have a blitzcrank in a game. Everyone just thinks about the hook, but the silence can be really devastating. And again, if Nomanz is like hard chunking people, hard finding people, you know, maybe that's the option. Instead of playing a poke composition with your Zoe and your Varus, you're playing more of a pick composition with your Sleepy Treble Bubble and your hook.
AHaHaCiK also now level 6 and took the red buff, so a lot more ability to affect one of these lanes or a fight if one were to break out. They're just continuing to farm up, denies that mark there on his Raptor camp by taking the camp away. I am surprised how subdued the game has been, but again, top lane seems to be where Vega want to focus their attention. Steel is here ready with his ulti, but it might be a little too late. Good ult there from Evi. TP enough from Detonation Focus, maybe into the Lambs for a spy. Activated just early enough. Morgana with the ulti, I think, but after the Drowsy, there's the first blood though for Irelia. He's going to get the double kill and maybe make it all three as Vega find it in the 2v3.
And it is so important that it is Irelia of all these champions that is picking up these kills, because again, if this comes into the 5v5, if the Death Ball comes online, they need to be able to play out to a side lane, so you need to have the lane assignment pressure there.
I was trying to figure out how Ceros fell asleep, and he must have been bobbing when he was teleporting in, because Zoe was not there for that exchange, but Ceros certainly fell asleep at the helm. TP down now for Vega. Nomanz going to try and make it his turn, just picked up Ceros' off the ground. And DFM going to have to move this bot lane out of there, have the ultis ready to go. Yutapon going to be the first target, already burnt Crescendo. There's the ulti, good flash hook, they need to get it done, and they will grab it. Gadget able to nab the kill.
And the sunglasses couldn't come down in time, the flash hook to end it there, and they're able to push in this wave, possibly pick up some plates if they want to.
So again, we talked about how Vega may be playing a little more subdued than we expected. Not as much pressure coming out of the 2v2 on the bot lane. Well, AHaHaCiK was focusing his attention on boss in the top lane, and it has paid heavy dividends now.
And it finally did pay off. Can you imagine how devastating it would have been for Vega Squadron if that gank didn't work? If suddenly Detonation Focus Me had picked up those kills on the top side of the map and then used that as a bridge to get them to the 5v5 stage of the game as we take another look at it.
And again, boss makes it work here, but AHaHaCiK here well and truly in time. A nice ult for Evi, but this TP was not enough.
And like you're saying, the fact that Morgana comes in and then instantly falls asleep doesn't feel the greatest.
I mean, luckily for him, still got the ulti off. Was enough plus the flash to save his life. Boss is maybe unlucky to not get all 3 kills.
And like you're calling for the fact that the Crescendo was not available instantaneously, there's the teleport knowing that Morgana goes top, while Zoe's then going to go bottom.
And again, the stun there looks good. The Crescendo follows in, but Nomanz like, wait a second, I can get in there. This Gadget barely flashes away.
Almost had him there.
Like
See what they were looking for, but then overextended and punished by Zoe.
Again, I do always love aggressive play in the bot lane, but barrier heal, not the most aggressive summon spell choices. As you can see there, drop down on your screen, the stakes here for this one. Still a chance here for DFM if they win, but if Vega win, it is all done here in Group B. And they will move on to the knockout stage. Chain of Corruption, a little wide there from Gadget. Good double stun there again from Gaeng as the follow-up comes in from the Crescendo. Gadget also under fire, but the Sona just not enough health to tank the rest of it. Gaeng will get the kill. So I guess the AD's trade is mid lane here for AHaHaCiK ganking onto Ceros. That's an easy pickup for Vega.
Looks like Group A right now. Everyone's dying across the map. We're so used to Group B. It's the slow, it's the methodical one. We're going to take our time, get some breathing room. Everything is on fire.
I feel like after Game 4, just blitzing through that for Vega, people have been inspired by the pace of play that has now been presented, and are certainly fairly breakneck, but it is favoring Vega in these first 11 minutes. Up almost 3,000 gold. Still have a Drake to take, but apparently there's too much fighting to try and take objectives.
Who needs dragons? Just kill people.
Or turrets, or Rift Herald. Just blue buffs all Nomanz gonna need as he picks that up.
It feels like it's about the right carries that need to get springboard and get this attention from Vega Squadron. Again, we talked about how important it is for Irelia to start popping off. I feel the same way about Varus. We talked about how Callista's a 2-item champion. Varus also sits in that pocket, so if you can get him ahead of the clock on those 2 items, maybe you do look for an early grouping of a 5v5 because he can make such a devastating chunk into Sona and Taric before they really get going.
I feel kind of bad because this was such a great start here for DFM, but Yutapon just doesn't have enough health to do anything. If he's playing a regular AD carry, maybe we'd be looking good, but unfortunately Sona does not have the base stats to withstand that 2v2 as well as this gank from AHaHaCiK.
Yeah, and then meanwhile you've got the drive-by here. Really well played. The fact that when he is locked up by the binding, he's not under the tower there.
It's a nice angle too. The onslaught of shadows. So Rift Herald, they heard me. They will take this first objective for themselves as Nomanz continues to get plates and throws the Battle Star in maybe the opposite direction. Maybe just wanted to try and poke Ceros with it. Rift Herald though over to the jungle. And we'll see if they can look to bust down that first turret, which still has that bonus gold attached.
Also, good heads-up play from Gadget and Santas to see that while Rift Herald was being forced for the mid lane position, that Kidred was eyeing the Infernal Drake to force Detonation Focus Me off of it.
Gonna collect the plates. Here's Steel though, in onto Nomanz, who will cleanse. That one he picked up though. So still holds on to his real summoner. Plate gold there goes over, but no turret still, so both both teams really still on the hunt for that first major objective.
And it feels like eventually Zoe is going to get the better and start chipping away at this. It's one of the nice things about Zoe. It feels like she has great pressure on a mid lane tower. Do want to point out Ceros' build path for the Morgana. Looks like he's going for that more kite back Morgana where you have the, GLP? The frozen hose.
With the glacial augment there. Makes a lot of sense. We'll likely see Twin Shadows as well.
Yeah, but it's a very different build path and kind of play style for Morgana. It's no longer kind of the flash forward into Hourglass for the ultimate Morg. It's more about throwing out those bindings, playing Yahtzee, see what you get.
He's a Ziggs Karma player, okay? He's all about it here in the mid lane. But Nomanz maybe starting to get the better of him. Pushing it in, getting damage on the turret. That does leave room now with Zoe pushing for Vega to take that first objective I mentioned. That will be a nice, spicy Infernal.
I think Infernal actually means a ton for Nomanz on this Zoe in particular into this type of composition. Because if this Zoe actually just has 100-0 kill pressure on someone in like a single rotation, that means the world for like long range engage inside a comp that can have relatively low range in it.
So keep your eyes on Boss there in the top lane. Has 2 components of the Triforce and getting pretty close. In fact, with 1,700 gold in the bank, he's ready to purchase that up. So already he's looked so good. He's actually almost up to 40 CS ahead in this lane. But once that Triforce comes in, news is going to get even worse there for Evi, who on the Kayle still needs to finally farm and the levels to get things going.
Isn't that the classic against Kayle, though? You're just, how far ahead can I get of her in the lane phase to try to make it matter less when she gets access to level 11, level 16?
I have to agree, but I don't know. I wouldn't be confident in my ability to survive this Irelia, but Evi has certainly shown great form in this tournament. Whether it's Kayle or the Vladimir, certainly been the play that as advertised from Japan.
I do agree with Shinny's assessment when he was asked, what was going to be the outcome of this match, that he leaned towards Vega Squadron as kind of being the stronger team. I feel like Detonation Focus Me have really core team fighting, but again, there are holes that you can exploit. We see Vega Squadron exploiting them this game to start it off. They definitely did it in the first time that they faced. But it's just the fact that, Detonation Focus Me have a composition like this.
Again, have to wait, but again, still with no turrets being gone down, that gold lead's actually massive, because you would expect to have taken a turret by now, maybe with the Rift Herald, maybe just with your pressure, so there's still a lot of standing gold for you to pick up. And given that the enemy team is kind of waiting for things to happen, finally I think the levy breaks a little, and they will take that top outer turret. And of course, where else would the gold go but to Boss, who has now finished that Trinity for it.
But it does mean that you're now in this pocket where Vega can try to muscle around the map a little bit more, whereas DFM are still playing slightly from the back foot, not just because of the gold disparity, but because of what pocket they're in terms of what items they have available to them.
I think there is certainly some onus on Vega to, use the advantage they've built to try and convert it into something other than just a farm lead. But they've done a decent job of that so far. They want this mid turret as well. Boss actually roamed down from the top lane to get it going, but Ceros with a beautiful GLP is going to force the flash out of Nomanz.
That was a scary flash. That was a hair away from locking down Zoe anyway.
Had the cleanse ready as well, but does commit the summoner with the longer cooldown, as Gadget also getting good damage done to this turret. Gonna stand there, deliver a few more arrows in, but not quite enough to take it down. Just pokes onto Gaeng, but as we mentioned, poke doesn't really work here.
You ever seen a Kayle gank? I mean, I don't think we're gonna see
I didn't really
one today,
see it there either, but I did. Haven't seen an attempt at one since the old Kayle, where some players fail.
Buckle up. Here we go.
All right, Evi's going to go in. Yutapon again with Gaeng. Good crescendo starting it onto Gadget. He's going to flash. Tainted Corruption might should be enough to save him, as Santa's going to silence everybody running back towards the turret. Will get dazzled. There's the ulti. They're going to dive in. Santa's already dead, but Gadget, he's going to be the target. He's got no flash. Everyone's invulnerable, and Yutapon able to clean up that kill.
And that's how the Kayle gank goes. It basically just extends the runway. You don't stop at the tower. You run past the tower.
Yeah, you think you're safe when you're out of turrets up. Not against this competition. Even Steel was down there just in case they needed another invulnerability. They didn't, and they get the 2 kills.
But I do want to give props to Taric right there, making sure that he connected with the CC chain to start that one off. I think if he had missed it, it would have been a different story.
I think Sona Taric, in the eyes of a lot of players, is like, it's pretty straightforward. These champions aren't that difficult, which, for the most part, I agree with. As far as, execution, Gaeng and Yutapon have actually been playing this lane really well. I mean, you're never going to kill somebody but they found good trades, and they do stuff like this. Again, the team fighting strict is there, but this skirmish was nice as well.
I feel like it's, you know, when you play a Caitlyn who just is so obnoxious because of how her kit works versus like playing like someone who masters Caitlyn, and at that point you're like, this champion is broken. Why does someone have so much range like this? It's absolutely devastating. So it's like you're saying, that difference between Sona and Taric are very strong, but when you have players who play it so well, it's even scarier. Speaking of scary.
And suddenly, Evi, with his Trinity Force, is almost killing boss.
So, wow, words. He's also got level 11.
And as you said, certainly one of the points that Kayle looks to. That first item spike nice as well. And the countdown to level 16 begins. Froskurinn already level 12 there for Evi. Is DFM, despite the gold deficit, still down 3 turrets. Vega have picked up those, so the outer ring has now been felled. Feels like in some of these exchanges, they're starting to turn the corner.
And it goes back to them having the confidence in executing on this comp. But it's not just that they're playing something OP, it's just that they really know how to get the most OP out of it.
That's true. Playing it, you know, it's, yeah, kind of like you were saying, that mastery there. As DFM grouped up, that's where they want to be. Infernal Drake up in 2 seconds.
Oh, they're ready.
I think they're going to fight for it.
You think? I think they're going. They're walking in.
Oh, Gaeng again with a flash cleanse. Good from Nomanz. Centers though. The next one, bubble on the ground, not going to be picked up by Evi. Finding Lance as well, and there's the blitzcrank going to get hooked, but they can die. What a crescendo fight too there from Yutapon. The Kayle ulti down, and DetonatioN focus me. An easy team fight win.
You chose this, Vega Squadron. You saw it coming, you let it go through, and now this is the price that you pay. It's an Infernal Drake for DFM. Meanwhile, Boss, with that lead, is trying to make something happen over to the side of the map, but at this point, Vega, eject from the 5v5. You are all about these side lanes.
Yep, I think Boss has demonstrated the plan that Vega will likely be committing to, but Infernal Drake now, this one over to DetonatioN Focus Me. Evi goes back to collect the rest of these waves, and of course get that valuable experience. Oh, Nomanz! That was a one-shot.
There we go, that's what we needed.
That was without sleep as well, I think, but we'll have to ask that question later because Ceros getting 1v1 potentially here by AHaHaCiK. Already used the ulti, has the Trinity Force finished on the Hecarim, and Ceros is just trying to dance his way out of there, lands the binding pull under.
I mean, the issue with playing musical chairs there between AHaHaCiK and Ceros is that he was basically waiting for the cooldown to come back up for the Dark Binding. So Ceros is like, it's fine, I just gotta stall here. Picked his side, just go, just chase him.
Well, worked out. Ceros able to survive a scary looking 1v1. The DetonatioN Focus Me certainly have survived the early stages of this game.
They're on that Baron.
Oh yes, they're on it, don't you worry. We all know at home. Now DetonatioN Focus Me, no, but I think they're about to get one shot again. Evi will live, and actually 2 up here, stealing Gaeng ready, but the Baron maybe gonna get stolen. Oh, they tried to get it down, but AHaHaCiK able to grab the Baron. Now the team fights up, and the Lamjo's fight only helps Vega Squadron, who finds the kills as they're just gifted over to them.
A complete fumble there from DetonatioN Focus Me. Didn't get close enough to the Baron right there. Vega Squadron, they mow it down, they took the check. Hey, if this is not warded, we are going to burn through this so quickly. We have the Blade of the Ruined King. We had these champions that can just cut through it, and now marching up the mid lane.
All right, so I mentioned DetonatioN Focus Me maybe starting to turn the corner. Hit a roadblock, unfortunately for them, and with this Baron, Vega Squadron going to launch in and take a significant chunk of this base.
I mean, it's the fact that DetonatioN Focus Me are turn the corner, but they still have to drive on the road. This composition for Vega, they've gone off-road.
What happens when we have a Hecarim, I suppose? Master of the highways. As an inhibitor in mid will fall as a result. And all of a sudden that, 3,000-4,000 gold lead that Vega had, what felt like DetonatioN Focus Me could play around, has moved itself to 8,000 because of plays like this. A very bold Baron call by Vega.
And it's so difficult to walk into this Baron pit when they have complete vision control because Nomanz is so far ahead of the clock, and just look at the damage that he's able to output.
It's a heartbreaking Kidred ult as well.
He tried.
He did, but a few inches short, and that's Baron over to Vega, plus 3 kills. And you mentioned Nomanz needs to be one-shotting people to get stuff done, almost at a death cap now. That'll get it done.
We're closing in on the 10k gold difference, but the fact that so much gold is piled into this Zoe, she was a beneficiary of a lot of the plates that went down into the mid lane. She's now 3-0-3, and I had the question, is Zoe's poke damage, is it going to go from poke to assassination? And because he's able to turn that corner, it means the world of difference against the healing potential of Sona Taric.
Yeah, can't heal off death, unfortunately. I mean, I guess they have, some invulnerabilities. There are certainly ways to avoid it for a short while, but Vega firmly in the driver's seat. They already had a lead. They've exploded that lead after that Baron call. And still with a minute 20 left with the minions powered up, they're going to look to take even more away. Remember, super minions are charging down the mid lane. Santa's looking for the hook, barely misses onto Evi. DetonatioN Focus Me might again try that team fight. There's the ulti out, Chain Corruption, plus the Irelia ulti just to kind of buy some time. Everybody bundled up, there's the Kidred ulti. Can't quite get Steel out of the pit, but again, Vega just pile in. Boss gonna try and find the resets, and AHaHaCiK does grab Steel. And with so many invulnerabilities, a good peel out there, does grab Gaeng, and now Evi gonna get chased down. Vega just have too much as Boss flashes forward, looking to try and take down Yutapon. They only lose one, they lose two as Santas also will pay the price, but Vega still coming out ahead.
I mean, the gold lead speaks for itself. It's now a teleport down into the mid lane. They're looking to end.
So aggressive from Boss. TP just down the street to try and end the game as the rest of Vega streams in. Yutapon, there's no health to really play with. Ceros trying to do what he can, but Nomanz on a rampage, just obliterating people. And that's Nexus turret 1. They're going to try and clean up the rest of them as well. Trinity Force users need to hit them, and AHaHaCiK, I don't think you can make this one happen. DFM will respawn. Teleport does not give them the win yet.
And one of the interesting things about Vega's comp, as I see it play down, yes, they have a massive gold lead, and maybe that is just enough of the buffer. But what is interesting about Irelia and Zoe is the amount of tempo that they can control in a fight. They're not reliant on one massive cooldown like a Shockwave, like a Crescendo, like a Lamb's Respite, like that big R on a big cooldown to make effective fights work for them. They can quickly go through a lot of their spells repeatedly. And it feels like as soon as all of the invulnerabilities, all of these big cooldown ultimates go for DFM, like you said, there's just still so much left in the tank for Vega Squadron. Zoe is continuously putting out the damage, continuously throwing those shots.
Again, even diving through the turrets gets two different people killed by the tower, but Vega Squadron certainly have shown a pretty large streak of aggression so far in this group, and that has not stopped here as they will take a quick pit stop here at the Cloud Drake. But likely looking to continue to hammer down these turrets. And with Baron up in a minute 55, that's an easy next target if they even need it.
And how oppressive they can be if they walk over, if they decide to, snuff out all of that vision. But like you said, they can just take a quick stroll down that bottom lane. They've got a big window to work with before that Baron timer comes up if they want to secure it to end the game. But otherwise, should just be taking the free objectives. And Vega just looking like the better team. They gave the composition. They said, hey, we can beat it. They gambled right.
Yeah, I mean, DFM, certainly signs of life showed their prowess with this comp, but not enough once that Baron really broke things open. And take a look at the DFM health bars, because with Nomanz now finishing that death cap, they might not last too long if the skill shots can land. Mid inhibitor also still under fire, so working on this bottom inhib.
And this is exactly where Zoe wants to be, just throwing at fish in this barrel, as here comes the last stand, possibly.
They gotta go. Ceros tries to find the ulti. Lamb's with Spike, gonna try and reset the rest of this fight. Evi looking for it, but again, Vega, there's too much left to try and play with. Nomanz unstoppable, just finding pick after pick after pick. And Vega gonna surge into the base and clean up all the kills they can. A double kill there for the jungler. Make it 3 as he grabs the triple off of Yutapon. And it's only Ceros left to defend, and open Nexus as Vega Squadron will fly undefeated towards the knockout stage.
And Vega Squadron now joining the ranks alongside other CIS representatives like Albus Nox Luna, like Gambit Gaming. They said, you need to know our name, it's our chance on the international stage, and they leave a very big footprint on Group B.
Only one game left to play, and for them, it won't even affect the scoreboard. 5-0, clinching themselves in the knockouts. DFM, they got the comp. I think they'd be very happy to play blind, like I said. They played it fairly well, but as you mentioned, Froskurinn, Vega, just the best team in this group, and at the end of 5 games, I think we can very confidently say that.
And again, it's kind of the versatility of Vega that really impresses me. When they're forced to play standard League of Legends, they still look very strong. I think that was kind of like the inch that gave them over DetonatioN Focus Me. They weren't just relying on some of these creative compositions, but they can still play it. So this is actually a foe that I think going into a best of 5 across from the Flash rules can be scary. How do you prepare for this team when you've gotten so many different looks from them and so many different key champions?
And maybe even more. Like I said, they have 1 game left to play that won't affect their standings, but you might just show even more to just continue to throw doubt, because again, you can only prepare so much as we'll kind of break down this game. This fight, I mean, this was the last-ditch effort here for DetonatioN Focus Me, but was not enough.
And it was the fact that they tried to stack everything up. They tried to fight uphill against a massive gold lead. I feel like the cooldowns weren't layered as cleanly as they could have been there, but ultimately it didn't matter when Nomanz and Gadget are just taking pot shots at DFM from backlines.
And again, Vega had a lot of good showings here, especially in the early game, but it is AHaHaCiK that does win a player of the game for this one around. And Riv will be talking to him after the break, so expect more from him. I think, again, we can look at Boss and say he did so much work, but in reality, I believe that was Hecarim going up there to make sure it started off right.
Yeah, right place, right time, making sure that he was snowballing the correct lanes. It did open up the opportunity that, you know, if they didn't snowball so far ahead, that they could have looked to play out these side lanes. They were trading objectives really cleanly. A lot of global tower gold, as well as a lot of plates went down, which just meant that, you know, they turned towards the 5v5 and they said, bring it.
And as you mentioned, this does mean that Vega will face off against the Flash Wolves in our second series tomorrow. That's going to be a fun best of 5. I mean, again, we haven't seen either Liquid or Flash Wolves play, of course, in this tournament, so don't know what to expect from them. And even though we've seen 5 and soon to be 6 games from Vega Squadron, I also don't know what to expect from them.
And I think it's always going to be a question, you know, it's hard to gauge the power of not just the emerging regions when you have them all playing against levels of competition that you don't really quite know how it's going to stack up. I think LMS are in a very similar position. And I think this MSI is particularly interesting because it almost feels like there could be a massive shift of power where, you know, you have the VCS rising up, the LMS, while they tend to do well in the group stage, they then start to fall down in the best of 5. So maybe we'll get a look at the Flash Wolves and really start to gauge how well they do in these best of 5s that have caused them so much problems in the past.
Well, it's fun so far. We're not even done with the day. However, it is time for a quick breather. But on the other side, INTZ face off against DetonatioN. Focus